Good afternoon, everyone. It is Wednesday, and it is 12 o'clock here in the Central Time Zone, and that means that it's time for Wednesdays with Wayne. Hello, I am Wayne Frederick, your host of Wednesdays with Wayne. Thank you for taking your time out of your days. Here as we approach the dog days of summer, thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your day to join me on what I think is a very, very important issue. We know this time of year that we're heading into this time of year. It's known as the dog days of summer. For a lot of people in the conversations I've had over the last week or so, it seems like it's almost the dog days of real estate. We have a lot of people who their business is stalled out, quite honestly, or their business never got going. And I think this always comes back to when we see peaks and valleys in our businesses. I think it always comes back to one key important ingredient, and that is the power of clarity. Getting crystal clear on what it is you should be doing in your days, and then going out and doing that, right? So that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. The real estate business is really loud right now. The real estate business is getting, it's all over the news. I was just listening yesterday afternoon as I was driving. There were some commentators talking about the interest rates and where they were, and the buying power for homes and all of this. And it can really stymie you, right? It can really get you stuck. And that's kind of been a theme for a while now is how do we help you get unstuck? Hopefully we'll be able to do a little bit of that today. The other issue that we have going on is we have a lot of agents. We hear from a lot of agents who say, I have buyers, but every time a listing comes on that they want to buy, we get in a bidding war. And so out of the power of clarity, getting crystal clear on what it is you want to do, and as the subtitle is here, living in your sweet spot, then out of that, when we're clear on what we're doing, we can hone in on the strategies for that particular thing, and then we can come up with leverage points for that, right? So if you have a lot of buyers right now, and you're tired of getting your buyers in a bidding war, and your buyers are tired of getting in a bidding war, then if we get really clear on the fact that, okay, we really have to maximize our strategies for working with buyers, that leads to leverage points with our buyers. And then we start brainstorming or thinking about how do we leverage a buyer, right? Well, without that clarity of this is a book of business that I enjoy, then you may not put the leverage pieces in place, and you could get stuck and be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. And we know that in our industry as a whole, a lot of people end up everywhere and nowhere at the same time. And so I want to talk to you about getting crystal clear. If you watch the video that we did, a mentor, I mentioned him as a mentor of mine in the video. It was actually Dennis Curtin, the regional owner that I worked for when I ran a region. And he asked me, it was 2009. And I mean, if you were in the business in 2009, you know what I'm talking about. It was ugly. And he came in one day and said, how are you doing? And I said, I'm fine, which I had learned from Bob Proctor. Anytime someone says they're fine, Proctor always used to say that it stood for frustrated, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. And I said, I'm fine. And Dennis said, what's wrong? And I said, just everything. And Dennis looked at me and he said, Wayne, he said, Tamara and I always try to stay away from big words, and there's not a bigger word than everything. Now let's get clear on exactly what the issue is, the one issue that you could deal with, and let's start looking down a decision tree of what are those things that we need to do. There is a great power in clarity. There is no doubt about it. There is a great power in staying in your lane. There is a great power in knowing every subtle nuance of what you're doing and ignoring everything else. And I want to try to fortify that with you today. So again, thank you for taking time out of your day, out of your week, to spend a little time here with us. So I'm a huge quote person. I find a lot of strength in quotes. I don't know if I've told you all this before. I read every morning, and I've sent this to all of my clients. I read a book every morning called The Daily Stoic, and I would suggest that you write that down. I learned about it from my son, who learned about it from a friend of his. But it is a daily thought on being a stoic person. And what a stoic person does is they don't react to all of the outside world. And it kind of dovetails. This, by the way, it's written by Ryan Holiday. Okay, it's called The Daily Stoic. I would hold it up, but it's white, and you probably won't be able to see it. By the way, I just realized I didn't put my background on, so today you get to see, I guess, what my office really looks like behind me. I didn't realize I didn't have my background up. But Anonymous said, which I always find interesting, there's a voice inside of you that whispers all day long, what's right for you. Just listen to the voice that speaks inside. And I think that's very true, right? I think that we have a voice that is speaking to us all the time. And Steve Jobs said, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. See, in real estate sales, here's the only thing you have to bring to the table. You have to bring some want to the table, right? Some desire, some passion, something that you're trying to go do. And sadly, if you talk to a large group of real estate agents, a lot of them can't answer what they're trying to do, right? So I'm going to challenge you today to go off by yourself and think about it. The business of your dreams is what I like to call it. If you had a magic wand and you could design the business of your dreams, what would it look like? And if you can get crystal clear on that one thought, then everything else will start to fall into place. I promise you, everything will start to fall into place. I am a huge reader. I think there's some books that you need to read if you haven't already. The Alchemist is one. It's a book about a little shepherd boy named Santiago. Real estate is never mentioned, and yet real estate is all throughout this book. Please go get the book, The Alchemist, and read it. Number two, The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. If you have ever read that, go read it again. You will find yourself on the pages. Guys, you are entrepreneurs. There is a walk and talk of the entrepreneur regardless of industry. And this book lays out the reasons. And third, my favorite book is called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. The disciplined pursuit of less. And what McKeown says in the book is that no is a complete sentence. And that if you're a talented individual, you can literally do anything, and that's really the trap. In the beginning, everyone gives you the task to do, and you're like, well, yeah, I could do that, and I could do this, and I could do that. And before you know it, you're everywhere and nowhere at the same time. So what we know about our industry is that there's a lot of ways to skin this cat. There's a lot of things you could do to generate business. There's a lot of strategies out there. The cold reality is they all work if you work them. And the question is, will you spend the time in the disciplined pursuit of not trying to do a little bit of everything, but a whole lot of a couple of things, because there is a pattern to this. The wisdom of life consists in elimination of the non-essentials. And being a non-essentialist is a mindset. So let's look at it this way. Here's how a non-essentialist would think. I want to be all things to all people. I have to go do this right now. Everything is important. How am I going to fit it all in? I'm out of time. Where the essentialist says, you know what? I'm going to do less, but I'm going to do it a lot better. I choose to do things. Only a few things in my life really matter. And what are the trade-offs if I go do this? What am I saying no to as I say yes? The non-essentialist does the undisciplined pursuit of just more. They react to every little thing that happens, whether it's the news, whether it's a glance from someone else. They just react. They're constantly reacting. They say yes to everything. And they try to force execution, where the essentialist is the disciplined pursuit of less. They pause to think about, well, now, wait a minute, is this something that really matters, something I really need to go do? They say no to a lot of things. And they say no early. That became my mantra about 4 years ago. Just say no early. If you've ever been in a situation where someone says, hey, would you do this? And you say, sure. And then as soon as it comes out of your mouth, you wish you hadn't said it. Pause just a second and think if it's something you do. And it's okay to say no. And they remove obstacles to make execution very easy. They get rid of the things that don't matter. They get down to the main issues. And what do they get out of that? Well, the non-essentialist gets a life that doesn't satisfy them. And then they start looking for other ways to satisfy them. They take on way too much and their work suffers. They feel out of control. They're unsure of what the right thing even is anymore, and they get overwhelmed and exhausted. Where the essentialist lives a life that really matters. They choose carefully, and most importantly, they love their work. They feel in control every day. They get the right things done. They don't get everything done. You're not ever going to get everything done, guys. And they experience joy in the journey. So they have the concept in life of ready, willing, and able, right? Ready, willing, and able. So are you ready is like a big question, right? Everybody says, hey, I'm ready to put the things in place for my business. What I'm seeing happen right now across the country, guys, is a lot of agents are looking up and they're starting to get this inkling that their stuff, if you will, isn't working as well. My program is not working as well as it did, right? One of the things that will always trip you up in life massively is an unwillingness to adapt to market conditions. Unwillingness to, whether it's sports, whether it's business, to keep doing what I've always done. You know, the trite little saying is, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. In today's environment, though, if you always do what you've always done, you won't even get what you always got anymore. And that deals with consumer behavior. And that's the things that we're trying to coach you guys up. So are you ready? Everybody says they are. Are you able to make changes in your business as it relates to where the consumer is? Well, of course you are. Because there's people in your markets right now that have either already adapted to the new changes in the market, right? And they've already adapted to how important it is to have an unbelievable past client system. They've adapted to going down the online world in some way. The question is, are you willing to make the changes? Are you really willing to make the changes, right? Are you in? There's a lot of agents right now. A lot of people have been posting on Facebook. 63,000 people left the industry this year. I saw that on a couple of Facebook posts. Well, I will tell you this. We have 9,000 more real estate agents this month than we did last month in the United States. So there's a deeper dive into this data. There's more people trying to sell real estate right now than ever before. And yet there's no inventory. So the question is, are you willing to make the changes you need to make? That's the big one. Are you willing to make investments in yourself? I laid this, I will tell you, as an industry as a whole, we're spending less money now as real estate agents than we ever have. We don't do print advertising anymore. We don't do this, we don't do that. And I made this comment to a group yesterday. I said, look, if you're running a very effective business model as a real estate agent, you're at about 60, you got about 35% of your revenues are going out in either marketing or brokerage splits or whatever. If you're netting 65 cents out of every dollar, you have a very effective model. Now here's the shift. If you're netting a lot more than 65 cents, you need to start spending money again in your business. And say that again. If you believe that you are positioning your business for long-term growth because you're netting 80 cents or 85 cents out of every dollar, there is a storm cloud coming. You have got to start spending more money in the pursuit of past clients. Right? That's to me where the spend should be, okay? So are you willing to make investments in yourself? Are you willing to go where you need to go? It's always interesting, you know, whether it's a national convention, a training session or whatever, and a lot of people say, well, I don't have time. And yet the top people always find time because they know they're going to learn something they can take back and they can actually implement. Are you willing to do the things you need to do? Are you willing to change something, right? Are you willing to change something, or are you stuck? Right? I don't want to, for a lot of real estate agents right now, it's like, well, I don't want to upset my apple cart. I'm like, there's no apples in your apple cart. Why wouldn't you upset your apple cart? right? Are you willing to change? Are you willing to let go of the thoughts and the things and the stuff that you had or used to do? Are you willing to move? Are you willing to study more than you've ever studied? Are you willing to take direction when you need it? Are you willing to continue in the face of failures? And we've talked about this, but I'll bring it up again. The way that we are able to continue in the case of failures is because we're operating with a model, not an idea, right? When you've modeled things out, there's a certain failure rate or runway, if you will, before things kick in. Are you willing to continue on? Or are you going to be like everybody else? Now I tried that, didn't work, so I quit. Are you willing to commit yourself 100% to living the way you choose to live? 100%. Are you willing to get some really hard and fast rules for your life and make that be the filter that you run all decisions through? I can tell you that your life changes when you do. So here's a little thought. We're in the middle of a technological revolution in our industry. Actually, we're in like version 9.0 of this. And yet, the average income per agent has not gone up. There was just a report that came out this week from a company or a think tank called CFA. And some of you may have seen it. It was talking about the marginal real estate agent, that 25 to 30% of the transactions in marketplaces that they studied, 3 major markets, 25 to 30% of the transactions were being done by what they referred to as marginal real estate agents, and they defined marginal as those people doing less than 5 transactions a year. And this study talks about the problems with a whole bunch of people who do a little bit of business and how it stalls out the market, how it lessens the customer experience, and their suggestion for what the industry needed to do, which is make it harder to become a real estate agent. But even though we have all this technology, what it's doing is it's watering this thing down. And so the average income has not gone up. The average number of transactions per agent has not increased. If it had, the income would have increased. And weirdly, the number of hours an agent works has not decreased. So maybe it's really not about technology, right? Maybe it's about us being unbelievable practitioners in the field. Maybe we're seeing this societal shift now in the way that we buy things. And absent a relationship with someone who can really help me through the largest investment I'm ever going to make, well, maybe I'll just go online. That's what we're seeing happen, guys. So I want to give you some strategies. John Naisbitt in Megatrend said, in our minds at least, technology is always on the verge of liberating us from personal discipline and responsibility, only it never does and it never will. The more the high tech around us, the more the need for human touch. The more high tech we have, the more options we have, the more important it is that as a practitioner in a service industry, that we provide an unbelievable customer experience. The goal for today is to help you develop the mindset to try to do one of the 3 following things. Make more income with your current workload. Make the same income and not work as much. Or if we knock it out of the park, make more income and work less. Now, the real estate industry in and of itself, by its design, has a lot of downtime in it. But what we want to do is we want to take some of that downtime that's there and we want to be doing the things to leverage your business. And I will tell you guys, the things that you do to leverage your business today are different than they were 5 to 7 years ago. There's no doubt about it. The business has shifted. Thomas Edison said being busy does not always mean real work. The object of all work is production and accomplishment. Seeming to do is not doing. So the life test is the hardest test you'll ever take, even though there's only one question on the test. Even though others may try to help you, by the way, everybody will try to help you, only you can answer the question correctly. There's no wrong answer, but when you answer it, the world falls into place and provides all you'll ever need. So what's the question? What's that one question that if you answer it, weirdly, everything starts to fall into place? The question is, what do you want? Right? What do you want? What is the business of your dreams once and for all? If I gave you a magic wand today for your business, I just had a conversation with somebody this week. If I gave you a magic wand, where would you wave it? What would your business look like? Because that's really what's inside of you. What would it look like? There's no wrong answer. And then why don't we go do it? Right? Why don't we go do it? Well, the reason we don't go do it, I believe, is because we really haven't modeled it out. We really haven't thought enough about it. And we share with someone else what we want to do. And immediately they say, what? Well, you can't do that. I've lived this, guys. I lived this years ago in my mid-20s when a seasoned agent told me I couldn't do it. I couldn't do what I wanted to do. I wanted to not work weekends, and I wanted to not do open houses anymore because it would have violated the weekend thing. And I wanted no one to call me at home. And you know, I wanted some time alone. And a seasoned veteran said, you can't do that. And I said, why not? And he said, because the customer expects it. I said, then I'll quit. Well, at the end of the day, if your total value proposition is you'll drop what you're doing and run to somebody, I watch this all the time with Zillow calls. If that's your total value proposition, then that really is not a value proposition. And you're an interchangeable piece now, and it's very transactional. Get really clear on what you want. What do you want your life to look like? Once and for all. There's no wrong answer to this, guys. It'll take you time. This is not something you do in a 5-minute exercise. This took me literally, myself, 6 months. And I just started writing down if time and money weren't the issue, and it was in a mentoring program that I'd been in with Bob Proctor. And he said, if time and money weren't the issue, what would you be doing? And I said, I would be teaching and training. He said, then why don't you go do that? And I gave him the litany of reasons why I couldn't do it. He said, it'll work. It always does because it's what you want to do. That was validated for me after I got it down. And I'll just tell you, you know, you always talk about mission statements for people, right? And everybody goes, oh, here we go with the mission statement. I wrote out in 1999 that my mission was to teach and train the key people in my life in the business and life disciplines so they would understand that a balanced life, what God meant for you to have. That's my gig. That's my deal. Right? That's what I spend my time doing. And the craziest thing started happening when I got clarity on that. Literally within 2 weeks, I had an opportunity to take over a brokerage and teach and train and be paid to do it. And then I had a chance to run a region. And then I had a chance to go do what I do now. And I've always been focused in on that. If time and money weren't the issue, what would you be doing? Why would you spend any time doing things you don't enjoy? Just let you think about that for a while. More importantly, how do you want to get it, whatever it is? Whether it's money, whether it's time, right? It doesn't matter what it is, right? How do you want to get it? What's your strategy going to be? Because it has to be your strategy, because only you will implement your strategy. A lot of ways to get there in every business. You see, it's strictly between you and yourself. Nobody else is involved. Once you have a goal, be very careful who you share your goal with, guys. Because one of two things will always happen. You share your goal with somebody, and they will either A, tell you you can't do it, and that will make you second guess your goal, or B, you will share your goal with them and your goal will be bigger than their goal, and that will make them second guess their goal. So either way, it's kind of a lose-lose, right? So always be very careful that you're only sharing your goals with people that you trust and that will help you get there. The growth process is just simply this. We all have a life. We are all living our lives right now at 12:30-ish Central Time, 1:30, you know, whatever your time is. You're living your life, and what we have to understand is we have created the life that we are living today. We did it. Now, how did we create the life that we're living today? Whether you enjoy, love the life, if you love the life you're living today, you did it. You made this happen. If you're challenged with the life you're living today, you did it. You made this happen. How did we create this life? We created it because of the expectations we have for our lives. Now, this is where the expectations may have come from other people. Well, you shouldn't be able to do that. You shouldn't, that's not true. Not everybody can do this, right? Where do our expectations come? Well, they come from our thoughts. In a lot of cases, our thoughts are loaded into our brains by other people. It starts with our parents. Then it can be spouses. It can be a myriad of people. Your thoughts are directly a basis of your inputs. And as a society today, and as real estate agents specifically, we are not inputting information that is helpful to us. Okay? We are spending way too much time doing and inputting stuff that is not helpful at all. When I talk about inputting the proper thoughts, I'm talking about reading and studying. Reading and studying things in the context of your business model. Spending that alone time. And when you start to do that, your thoughts will change and your expectations will change, and you will start creating the life that you want if you're not already doing that. And then it just becomes more and more crystallized, right? It becomes more and more of a very tight way that you make your decisions on saying yes or saying no to different scenarios. The average adult spent 147 minutes a day on social media in 2022. That's up 1 hour from 2012. So you can see what's happening here, right? We're spending more time on our phones, scrolling, watching TikTok videos or whatever. It's 894 hours in a year at a half a page per minute, which is not quick reading. Average book length of 300 pages. You can read 89 books in a year for the time you're staring at your phone. People say, I don't have time. Well, the average CEO of Fortune 500 companies reads 60 books a year. Think there's a correlation? I think there's a correlation. Unplug for a while. Study more. Study things that you can actually implement in your business, that you can actually implement in your life. Go get the book, The Daily Stoic. It is the writings of the Stoics put in real world today language or today daily application. Today's was some simple rules. Simple is rarely easy. Now that you have these rules, make it your duty to put them into practice. With the first item on your to-do list, with the first conversation you have with your soul, and of course with the life you make for yourself, not just today, but every day. Write that on a blackboard and don't forget it. Here's the average amount of time we spend in our lives doing these various things, right? We spend 1 year, almost 2 years socializing with real life people, right? We spend 3 years and 7 months eating and drinking. But we spend 6 years using social media, and this is an old graph. What's that tell you? We spend more time now watching other people live their lives than we do actually living our own life and engaging with other people. You cannot overestimate the unimportance of almost everything that is hitting you on a regular basis. The word priority came into the English language in the 1400s, and it remained singular until the 1900s when we created the word priorities. We made it plural. See, prior to the 1900s, you only had your priority because there weren't that many options for you. Now look at all the options we have, and that's why mindset is so important. That's why clarity is so important. The question is, what's your daily priority? Are you in business or busyness? Think back on what you did yesterday or last week or last month. How many things did you get done yesterday that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt will move your business forward? Maybe this is past client systems. Maybe this is prospecting calls that you made. Maybe it was establishing your Google business page. Maybe it was asking for some reviews. But that you know that if you do that on a regular basis, your business will grow. And then how much time did it actually take to do that out of your day? How many hours did you work yesterday? Like, did you really work? How many hours you spend in a week on your career? Not how many hours, are you kind of in work mode? I mean, like dollar productive stuff, right? Highest and best use. How many hours a week are you doing this? How many of those are dollar productive? What are your most dollar productive things for you? See, for me, I made this decision that, and I've done this 3 or 4 times in my life, and I barely got out of college, so it's not like I'm some brilliant human. I just always valued quality of life. And I made the decision I didn't want to work weekends anymore, and that led me down a decision tree that if I wasn't going to work weekends, I had to get to the listing side of the equation, but I had never had more than like 3 listings in my life. But if I was going to list houses, what did I need to do? Well, I needed to go get in front of people that listed houses. Well, what did that mean? Well, that meant I needed to be able to identify who they were, and that ended up being expired listings and for sale by owners. And I thought, well, I need to learn how to talk to those people. So I researched scripts and dialogues, and I started doing it, and that became the most dollar productive thing I could do. And I looked up a year later, and I was actually doing what I had set out to do. I decided I really enjoyed training people. And I thought, well, if you really enjoy training people, you're going to have to go start training people. So I set up my own little mentoring program in my real estate office, started training people. Right? I mean, if there's something you want to go do, go take the action steps toward it. What are your most dollar productive activities? Right? What's your highest and best use? There's 3 D's of being successful. And number 1, and this is a huge issue, you have to defend the people that you already have that know you, like you, and want to deal with you. This is past client systems, guys. It's nothing more simple than that. You also have to differentiate yourself. You have to not be like the normal real estate agent, okay? The reality is the public has never really enjoyed in mass the experience of dealing with a real estate agent. So if your dialogues are the same, you look the same, you talk the same, you do the same things, you get thrown into the realtor bucket. Not a bucket you want to be in. There's some really talented people in the industry, there's no doubt. There's also a lot of people that aren't that great. You have to differentiate yourself. And in today's environment, you have to do it the first time I meet you. And then you have to go disrupt. Well, where's the disruption coming in our business? It's coming from third parties. It's coming from third parties because we are not defending our people that we have. And we are not, as an industry, differentiating ourselves. And the disruptors, the third parties, and you know who they are, the Zillows, the Homes, the Trulias, the Realtor.coms, the whatevers, right? The Home Lights, we can go down the list. They've looked at our industry and they've said, wow, this looks like something you could really disrupt. This looks like something you could really get the consumer to come over here. We could go get in the middle of this thing, right? So we have to start doing these 3 Ds, and when we do that, we have a sustainable business. There's a lot of people in the industry right now that were used to making 6 figures and are making hardly anything this year. Why? Because they are no longer the disruptors. They have not defended their turf as much as they needed to, and they really didn't differentiate themselves. And why? Because we're so busy. I'm so busy, I don't have time to do this. There's 3 C's of action as well. We know beyond a shadow of a doubt that consistency is the key to being a real estate agent. We know this. If I could just be more consistent, Wayne, if I could just figure out how to be more consistent. The only way you will be more consistent is that you're more confident. Now, you can't be confident in every possible realm of the real estate business, but you only consistently do those things in life that you're confident in. And you'll only know which areas you need to be confident in if you're crystal clear on what you're trying to do. Those are my 3 C's. And when we get those things in line, it starts with clarity, which we're talking about today. When you get those 3 things in line, you'll start taking the proper action for you. Might not be the proper action for me, might not be the proper action for the person in your office or other agents you know, but it'll be your proper action. And your career will change. Your career will go to the levels of your dreams. I'm very, you can probably tell by the tonality of my voice today, I'm very, very passionate about this. I'm very passionate about this. And then there's 3 P's of growth. Once we're clear, right? If we're clear on what we're trying to do, and we know consistency is the path, and we know we have to be confident in that arena. Oh, how do we gain confidence? There's only one way, and that's practice. I'm a big golfer. This is not by design, but you can see all my golf stuff behind me. If you're worried about your golf swing when you step on the first tee of a tournament, you're dead. There's tension, there's fear, all these things. How do you get over that? You go to the driving range and you practice. You practice those things that you need to practice. What I might need to practice may not be what you need to practice. Some things come naturally to you. But if you're going to grow, you're going to have to practice. Number 2, you're going to have to prospect in the real estate world or in a business world, which just means you're going to have to generate leads somehow. And you're going to have to learn how to present. You're going to have to learn how to differentiate yourself more so than you ever have, guys. I see this, I was trying to find a movie scene. I know it's in a movie somewhere where it's a Western, and the guy's like, storm's coming. Guys, there is a storm on the horizon for our industry. If you're just reading any of the Inman News or the risk medias or this, that, or the other, you can see how our industry is in a real state of flux right now. Between the lawsuits that are out there on this NAR DOJ thing, for those of you that don't know, the PIF, I believe that's what it's called, or I'm getting my live golf thing in my head, but there was a huge MLS in Pennsylvania that they just wrote a $3 million check to buy their way out of this class action lawsuit. That's not good. When we practice, when we prospect, and when we present, we'll have continual growth. But we will only do that if we're crystal clear on what we're trying to accomplish. Clarity leads to purpose. Purpose leads to strategies. Strategies lead to confidence, and confidence leads to consistency. And you cannot honestly take any of these things out of the equation. You just can't. It's just the way that it is. It's the way life works. You'll only take consistent action on what you believe in, you're equipped to do, and what is behaviorally in tune with who you are. You'll consistently do those things. You won't consistently do anything else. Now, how do you equip yourself? You practice, right? How do you believe in something? In a lot of cases, you take an idea and you model it out, and that gives you confidence. Then you equip yourself to go do it. If it's behaviorally in tune with who you are, then you go for it. And it works. It's just every time it works. I'm gonna tell you guys something else too. I pulled this back out. I started watching it again the other night. I watch it, I don't know, every couple of years. There is a gentleman by the name of Andy Andrews, and I would invite you, implore you to go on YouTube and put in Andy Andrews 7 Decisions. It'll be about an hour and a half out of your life. If you've never seen Andy, he's fantastic. But it sums up exactly what we're talking about. 7 decisions that if you make them in your life, they work as he says, they work every single time. And it's true. It is so true. That's why I pulled it out. I was in a conversation the other night, and after I got done, I'm like, I just got to watch the 7 Decisions again. Take time out of your life and do that. The biggest challenge in growing any business is simply being intentional, right? Waking up every day and being intentional, doing the things that need to be done. Why is it that we have such starts and stops in real estate? Oh, because we don't have confidence. Why do we not have confidence? Oh, because we didn't model it out and we didn't practice what we needed to practice, right? And what's happening right now in our industry, historically, 35 years I've been doing this, when their business goes down, agents start doing some uncomfortable things in the short term, and it always works, right? But then what I call the bird of paradise comes back, and you get a referral, and you go out and start working with that. We're in a mode now where you got to wake up every day and you got to go to work. This is a challenging concept to a lot of people in our industry. Not for you guys, but for people that aren't with us today. It's a challenging concept. That's why we are seeing people leave the industry. The problem is we're just seeing more people come into the industry than are leaving the industry. People are leaving the industry basically for one reason, like, this is way harder than I thought it was going to be. This creates a huge opportunity for you guys if you're willing to do the things, right? And it's not a lot of things, it's like 2 or 3. So the question is, who are you? And we've gone through this before, so I'll do it quickly. The true pro is focused on 2 or 3 of the possible options to generate leads. They know every subtle nuance of what they're doing, and they're incredibly consistent at conversion. Now, let me tell you the one shift that has happened in the last year. A lot of pros are finding that their stuff doesn't work as well as it used to. Okay? And that's why you have to become a student of the game. Then we have tweener agents. They dabble in a lot of stuff, but their execution is sporadic and inconsistent. This is most real estate agents, right? And then you have the rookies. The rookies are everywhere and nowhere at the same time, operating out of fear and chasing business. Now, these 3 categories of agents, and I would tell you that every real estate agent, as human beings, we all fall into one of these 3 categories. You have to make your own decision on where you think you are in your career. The thing I will tell you about this is this has nothing to do with the amount of money that someone makes. This is a mindset. And it also has nothing to do with how long someone's been in the industry. There's a lot of people that have been in the industry for a long time, and they do well, but they're still mentally a rookie. How do we know? They have no life. They've been married 3 or 4 times. They're afraid of everything. They're chasing constantly. They're work. The true pro, they're making great money, right? They have a high quality of life. They're very stable. They're very calm. And I think we all have this aspiration to turn pro. The big dilemmas are everything works. Everything that you could possibly come up with as a lead generation thing or a script or it's all going to work. Some work better than others. But the bottom line is everything works. And there's so many different options in our industry, and yet we have so little time, right? We have so little time. That's the problem with this industry. There's not one way to skin this cat. There's a myriad of ways to skin this cat. So, but all of the ways fall into 3 buckets. Number 1 is advertising. Number 2 is referrals. And number 3 is active prospecting. Now, I will sum this up with referrals, people that know you, like you, and want to deal with you. Advertising, spending money to get people that don't know you, like you, and want to deal with you to contact you. Prospecting, going out and talking to people to see if you can get them to know you, like you, and want to deal with you. Every strategy falls in one of these 3 buckets. Now, optimally, we would just do this by referral. And in fact, most realtors do this. The vast majority of their business is by referral. But you're going to need 250 to 300 people in your network that you're in deep flow with to be able to drive a really consistent, sustainable business at a high level. If you don't have 250 to 300 people that know you, like you, and want to deal with you, right? You're going to either have to advertise your way there, and that is, in today's world, that is an online lead purchase play. Used to be print advertising, used to be billboards. It's not that anymore. It's really an online play. Or there's active prospecting, right? This is ISAs on Teams. This is people who call expires every morning, FSBOs, whatever, right? The ultimate goal, though, I think for all of us, is to get to the referral side because it's just easier. Well, then in the middle of all that, we have what I call tweener land. I do a little bit of advertising, but not very much. I kind of keep in contact with my past clients, but I could probably be better there. I prospect, but only when I have no business whatsoever, which, by the way, is the worst time to ever prospect. You see, then we start with the tweener death rattle, and man, it's rattling like crazy in our industry right now. It's like, if this thing doesn't turn, if we don't get more listing inventory, I'm going to have to go find something else to do. And the only issue is tweeners aren't focused. Sometimes tweeners are incredibly capable, incredibly talented people. They're just not focused. They're not clear on what they're trying to do. If time and money weren't the issue, how would you be running your business? Go do that. later on, after Proctor had laid this out for me, I had the opportunity to have lunch with a gentleman by the name of Jack Stack, credible business person. And at the end of the lunch, he looked at me. He has a holding company, SRC Holdings, about 48 different companies, and we were at lunch. And he goes, Wayne, I don't know a lot, but I know this. Whatever you've always wanted to do, go do it. And he said, and I don't mean frame it with how old you are. He said, how old are you? And I think at the time I was like 50. And he goes, I mean, if you've always wanted to be a dentist, go back to dental school and be a dentist because you'll be a great dentist. He said, I got lucky. I love what I do. Right? I love and I will tell you to this, here I am 61. I love what I do. It's now my three-legged stool of life. I have to love the work. There's a monetary component to what I do, and I have to have complete freedom. And if it violates one of those three rules, I'm going to say no. That's my way that I look at things, okay? I'm not really good at a lot of things. I'm really good at a couple of things. That's the common theme that you will find with incredibly successful people. The Principle of Priority states, and it's a great book called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. You must know the difference between what is urgent and what is important, and you must do what is important first. What is important for the long-term viability of your business? What are those things that you know you have to go do? Go do them. 3 issues. Number 1 is your skills. Do a really serious checkup on your skill set, folks. Are you really good? Look at it. Look at everything that you're doing in the context of a competitive environment. You're going to be competing now. You're going to be going up against 3 real estate agents, 5 real estate agents. Stuff good? Are you good? Are your dialogues good? They're going to call me and they're going to call you for a listing appointment. Who's going to win? Then there's the disciplines that we have. Are you disciplined in your work? Are you working with a proactive calendar? Are you setting out and knowing that I'm going to do these things at these time blocks on a regular basis? And ultimately, we create habits. We all have habits. Our life is the sum total of our habits. Everything in our life can be traced back to these issues. Either our skill set's not where it needs to be. Well, we know how to fix that, right? It's practice. Either our disciplines are not where they need to be. Well, that's mindset. Either our habits are not where they need to be. And once you make the decision to change this, amazing things happen. Now, if you go back to the book, The Alchemist basically says that if you'll just go take some kind of action, it'll work. Proctor taught me this. But then the essence of that book is, then it's going to get really hard. And then we're going to find out how badly you really wanted to do it. And if you stick with it, it'll work because you have a passion for it. Anytime you are an entrepreneur, this is the path you're going to walk down. Don't get frustrated with it. Embrace it. It is what it is, right? But if you're constantly working on your skills and your disciplines and creating new habits, you will get there. I'm old. I've just seen it. I know it. What we have to do is we have to have talent awareness and recognition. What are you good at once and for all? You have to have knowledge about the real estate industry, both factual, and you also have to have been out there and gotten after it, experiential knowledge. You have to have the reality habit. How good are you really in a competitive environment? Because guys, in today's world, and we talked about this, I've mentioned it, you are now competing against a nameless, faceless competitor. And it's called the information on the internet. That is how everybody is looking at what you have and what you offer. You have to have focus, more focus than you've ever had in your life. You have to be consistent. And the biggest issue is you need other people. You so need other people. And I will tell you this confidently. People are out there waiting to help you. I've lived it. I continue to live it. You have too. They're waiting to help you. All you have to do is get clear on what you're trying to do. And they will show up in your life because they always do. I really feel like that the biggest problem we have is we don't spend the time to get focused on what we really want to go do. And there's people out there that could help us, but they don't know they're supposed to help us because we don't even know what we're trying to do. I think it's like we're messing with God. God's like, hey, I can continue to put people in your path that would help you do this. Would you please just get clear on what you want to do? 20% of the global workforce feel that their strengths are in play every day. So that tells us that 80% of the people went to work and were like, this isn't really what I should be doing. Oh, we are really seeing this now, aren't we? It's called the gig economy. There's two flawed assumptions. One, that each person can learn to be competent in almost anything. That's true. You can be competent in anything. And that your greatest room for growth is working on the stuff you're not good at. Okay? As opposed to, we each have a set of talents that are ours. And that your greatest room for growth is where your strengths are. And if you study and you read about famous people, that's what they did. I don't know that they realized they were doing it. Y'all have, every one of us on this call today, we have things that we're good at. We have things we're not good at. Why would you spend inordinate amounts of time trying to shore up the stuff you're not good at? Go do what you're good at. Now, this is why I think we've seen this shift and why people don't want to work 8 to 5. Well, you know, you hear all these people, I want to work remotely. I want to do this. I want to do that. That's because 80% of the people that were going to work were like, I don't really like this. I want to see, can I go do something on my own? Right? Side hustle, gig economy. Being good at something is the enemy of being great at something. The Fox and the Hedgehog, as is laid out in the great book by Jim Collins, Good to Great. Foxes are good at a whole lot of stuff. They're great at cocktail parties. They can talk about any topic for a minute or two. The hedgehog, they don't know a lot of stuff, but they know a lot about a few things. Who always wins? Hedgehogs always win. Also from the book Good to Great, you have to have a passion for what you do. If you don't have a passion, figure out where you have a passion and go do that. Now, the cool part about our industry is it is so large and all-encompassing, there's probably a slot you could get a passion for. You have to believe you could be the best in the world at it. You may not be there yet, but at your core, you're like, I could be the best in the world at this. And I have to be able to make money doing this. If you put passion, best in the world, and an economic engine together, you will have what Collins called your BHAG, your big honking audacious goal. You will win. You will get there. I promise you. But it all comes back to what's your passion. Let me give you 10 little things that I think that are just the key, just different ways of looking at this, and then we'll be done. Number one is turn pro. You've heard me talk about this before. Here's the pictures of some people that made the decisions to turn pro. They made the decision to say no to a lot of things and focus in on the things that they really wanted to do. That Steph Curry is probably one of my greatest examples. He's famous now for his warm-up before every NBA game. He didn't start shooting three-pointers and working on it when he got to the NBA. He'd been doing it his whole life. Michael Phelps is another great example of this. If you study Michael Phelps, Warren Buffett still reads 6 to 8 hours a day. If you're not familiar with the story of Steve Jobs, go buy the book Jobs by Walter Isaacson. It's one of the greatest books about focus. Watch the movie about Serena and Venus Williams, right? I mean, the touchstones are out there. Is there any difference in these people and us? No. The only difference is that they were more focused. There were other people early on that were at exactly the same place and time as they were. These individuals were just more focused. Master your dialogue. Biggest issue in real estate right now is dialogue. The more tech we have, the more our dialogues are important. To effectively convert leads, and this is going to be our session in 2 weeks, you have to have internalized dialogue. 4 things, and I'll talk in 2 weeks about what internalized dialogue is. 4 things you have to be able to determine with every contact that you make. Do they have a desire to do a transaction? Do they have the ability to do a transaction? Would they like some help with a transaction? Could you interview for the position? If you have that, if you ask those 4 questions of every person you come in contact with, your life will change, given that you have the capacity and the ability to actually help them. If you're not having these kind of conversations with people, that's where your work has to be. And if you're not having those kind of conversations with people and you're afraid to ask the questions that must be asked, then your work must be in the practice. This is a picture of Ted Williams. I find Ted Williams totally fascinating. He was referred to as the splendid splinter in baseball. He was the last man to hit over 400. He did it in 1941. No one in baseball has a batting average over 400 since 1941. Look at all the technological advances, all of the study, all of the methods, and nobody has been able to hit over 400 since Ted Williams did it in 1941. George Brett got close one year, but he didn't make it. So I think you kind of have to analyze, wow, how did he do this? Well, if you see this little graph right here, and you see the red, right, and the orange, he would only swing it. He wrote a book called The Science of Hitting. I'm not a baseball player, but I read it because I found it fascinating. He would only swing at pitches that were either orange or red. And they said he would go back to the dugout and people would say, Ted, you let some good pitches go by. And his comment was, they might have been good for you, they're not for me. He would only swing at pitches that he knew statistically were in the pathway of his swing. So number one, go get in the game. Spend some time by yourself and figure out what it is once and for all is your sweet spot. Wait for your pitch. How do you know to wait for your pitch? By getting more pitches thrown to you. Don't chase bad pitches. In our world, what does that mean? Don't work with people that you don't like. Don't think you have to work with everybody. If you're new at this industry, do not fall into the new agent mantra of, well, right now I'm new and I have time. No, you don't. Because it's the habits you create in the beginning that end up being the habits that you're using later on as your business scales. And this is how realtors lose their lives. Hit according to your style. Don't try to mirror the other person all the time. Figure out who you are and go find people that see the world the way you do. And always be ready to adjust. And this is what's tripping our industry up right now. We're not willing to adjust. Got to be willing to adjust to what the marketplace gives you. Listing inventory is down. All right, so listing inventory is down, no big deal. I have to go find listing inventory. I need a leverage point for listing inventory. All right, I have a buyer. Rather than waiting for properties to show up on Multilist, which this marketplace is showing as an over-reliance on an MLS system, rather than waiting for properties to come up on Multilist, why don't I take my buyer out, have a really serious in-depth conversation with them, and go find them a house that's not in Multilist, an off-market property. That's what the marketplace is giving us right now. Go maximize it. Understand your value. It's not information anymore. It used to be. We're past that. It's now your ability to interpret the information the consumer already has. Do you have that ability? If not, go work on it. Go read more, study more, learn the business. Number 5, you have to practice. Embrace what I call the power of 15. I'll go through it quickly because if you've been on these at all, I talk about it all the time. You can truly change your life 15 minutes a day. Spend 15 minutes a day in the key parts of your business. 15 minutes a day practicing scripts, whatever those specific scripts are that you might need. 15 minutes writing thank you notes to your past clients. 15 minutes perhaps prospecting. 15 minutes working on your materials and your processes. Just little chunks of 15 minutes. And beware of what I call the rule of 2. Never let more than 2 days go by without you spending time in the power of 15. If you've ever gone to a gymnasium and worked out, you know the rule of 2. As my son said to me one day, he goes, if you think about it, you're only 2 days away from never working out again. Because if you skip 2 days of working out, before you know it, it's 2 weeks, then 2 months, then 2 years, And then you say, well, I would have to work out so much now that I'd have to go out and work out for like 2 hours, and I don't have 2 hours today. But if you just would have grasped 15 minutes, the habit would have been created. Become a student of the game really quickly. The old sales bullseye. You got the general public. Where are they? They're on Google. They're on Zillow. They don't know you. They don't like you. The value you have is your reviews and your response time and answering the phone. Better than that are your acquaintances. We tend to have a lot of acquaintances in the real estate business. Given the chance, they'll use you, but given the chance, they'll use somebody else too, right? If an acquaintance refers you to someone, the referral sounds something like, yeah, I used this Wayne Frederick guy a few years ago. He was pretty good. So what will that referee do? They will immediately go to Google and read reviews about me. That's now the new walk and talk of the acquaintance. Better than that is your network. People wouldn't think of using anybody but you. You are their person. Better than that are your advocates. They know you and like you. They've always used you. They always refer to you. They will give you a stop traffic referral. That's like nirvana. Here's what we know is the next time you have a closing with someone, they are an advocate for you. Because I know you've done a great job. If you're on here and you're engaged in this, you're hitting all of the benchmarks. You're doing a great job for people. The problem we have is if we don't stay in flow with that person, right? We're really good. I asked some questions yesterday with some people. But I ask my daughter all the time with the agent that she dealt with. She hasn't heard from him since. Great guy, did a lot of great work. But I'm going to tell you that over time, she would have referred the next day. Now it's kind of networky, probably use him again, but is she telling her friends to use him? Because over time, we move back out to the general public. And this is what the third parties are counting on. They're counting on the fact that y'all won't upgrade your systems, that you all won't give this unbelievable client experience, and that people will end up being able to become a very transactional experience for people. And we're buying into it. Don't think for a minute that Dotloop or DocuSign or SkySlope don't lessen that customer experience, because they do. They're easier for us, I get it. There's nothing like the power of a great conversation with someone. The simplest business model of all, just be good, be nice, and stay in touch. Be really good at what you do, understand the industry, be really nice to everyone, and just stay in touch with your clients. Do all three of those, your business will scale. It's pretty simple. Always try to bring more value to the table than what you're being paid for. Take any one of the three of these out of the equation, and your business starts to go like this. Starts to have peaks and valleys. And we know that the vast majority of real estate businesses have peaks and valleys. Number 7, stay in your process. Selling real estate is 100% a battle of processes. The goal of any contact is to identify a potential client, not to try to turn people into clients. Embrace Pareto's law, the 80-20 principle. You will make 80% of your income from 20% of the things that you do. It's a law. You will walk on 80% of the carpets in your house, or 20% of the carpets in your house 80% of the time. It's a law. You'll wear 20% of the clothes in your closet 80% of the time. You'll go to 20% of the restaurants in your city 80% of the time, and when you get there, you'll order from 20% of the menu 80% of the time. It's a law. There are 20% people and there are 80% people. Your advocates are your 20% people. Your acquaintances are your 80% people. Goal is to try to get more 20%ers. Avoid sunk cost bias. That's what actually built the Concorde jet, if you remember the Concorde jet. The only reason the Concorde jet was ever built was because France and Britain had invested so much money in this supersonic airliner that they couldn't stop. So they had to do it. Nobody liked it. It wasn't a great experience. No one flew on it until they said it wasn't going to fly anymore. And then everybody thought, well, I better go do this one time. It was a huge money loser. Sunk cost bias says you get so deeply into something you're afraid to turn back. What does that mean for us in real estate? This is the buyer that you never did really like. And it's like, well, the mantra is, I've worked with them so long now, I have to keep going. No, you don't. And what I really want you to get to is that you never should have started working with them in the first place, because it was all in there in the beginning. Number 8, be progressive, a word that I invented I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago now. Be polite and aggressive, and when we push those together, we have progressive. Most people err on the side of being too polite, not asking the question that needs to be asked. What I've learned is that you can ask people anything you want to. They'll answer it as long as you do it politely. Number 9 is have great materials, guys. I mean, you've been around me long enough to know now, if you don't have really cool stuff, you're behind the 8 ball. You need great materials. Great materials help you get into better conversations faster. They build your confidence. There is no doubt we need better materials. And number 10 is the 3 kinds of time. So we all want high quality, high quantity play time, right? We all want to go on the trips we want to go on. We want to buy the things we want to buy without having to worry about it. We want to do the cool stuff. High quality, high quantity. The quality and quantity of your play time is directly proportionate to the quality of your pay time. Not the quantity of it, it's the quality of it, which is directly proportionate to the quality and quantity of your prep time. So if you want to have this fabulous life and you want to play all the time, this is why people buy the lottery ticket, right? If you want to have that quality of life, you have to have high quality pay time. And the way that we get there is by prepping more. Think of yourself as an elite athlete. The elite athlete practices way more than they're ever on the real playing field. You don't know who this gentleman is. His name is James Stockdale. He was Ross Perot's vice president when Ross Perot ran way back in the dark ages. This is also a picture of him. James Stockdale was parodied on Saturday Night Live. People made fun of him. He was famous in a vice presidential debate. You can probably YouTube it, where he said 2 things. He said, number 1, let me put my hearing aid in, and number 2, I don't even know why I'm really here. And so what we learned from Stockdale, that's what everybody remembers him for. He was actually a professor of philosophy at Stanford University. A very learned man. He was also a POW in Vietnam. And there's a thing called the Stockdale paradox. They asked Stockdale, what was the difference between the people who made it and didn't make it in the prisoner of war camps in Vietnam? And he said, oh, it was the optimists. And they said, oh, you mean the optimists survived? He goes, no, the optimists all died. He said, those of us that made it out had an unwavering faith that we could and would prevail regardless of what happened. We also had the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of our reality. The brutal fact of the real estate sales business today is there is no inventory. Get over it. Have an unwavering faith that you will prevail regardless of what happens, and start putting the things in place so that you can have the inventory that there is. That's a mindset. That's the mindset of the pro. You'll overestimate what you can get done in a year and underestimate what you can get done in 10. You'll overestimate what you can do in a month, but you'll surprise yourself at what you can get done in a year. You'll overestimate in a week, underestimate a month, you'll overestimate a day, and underestimate a week. Break it down to a daily occurrence and get after it. 3 key people you need. Number 1 is a consultant, someone who looks at your business with a different set of eyes. Number 2, you need a mentor, someone who has walked down the path that you now know you want to walk down. Oh, you only will know that if you spend time trying to figure out once and for all, how do you want to do this? And then you need a peer partner, somebody in there slugging it out with you. I'm going to prove this to you, and then we're going to be done. There's a gentleman that you probably have no idea who he is. There's another gentleman you probably have no idea who he is. Here's the next person some of you may know who they are. And here's a guy I guarantee you have no idea who they are. Now, here's the interesting thing about these people. The first guy is a gentleman named Charlie Munger, and he goes with Warren Buffett. You see, Charlie Munger ran Berkshire Hathaway while Warren Buffett figured out what stocks to buy. Charlie Munger also, by the way, is one of the wealthiest men in the world. Never heard of him, most people. The guy in the lower left, the upper right, that's Steve Wozniak. He goes with Steve Jobs, that's Apple. Wozniak was the one that actually created all this stuff. Jobs was the sales guy. Lower left-hand corner, that's Paul Allen. He ran Microsoft while Bill Gates was out saying that we were going to put a computer in everybody's home, and everybody thought he was crazy. And the last one is the most fascinating one for me. This gentleman's name is James Couzens. And this is Henry Ford. And Henry Ford got accolades for creating the assembly line, right, with the Model T. Except Henry Ford didn't do it. James Couzens did. James Couzens was the one to actually figure out how to do it. Henry Ford had the idea. And there is a massive power in partnershiping. Massive power in partnershiping. And what you'll discover is the clearer you get, the more clarity you have in your life, the more discerning you will be about who you get in partnerships with. But you're definitely going to need other people as you go through life. Whatever level you can get to on your own, you will get to a higher level with the partnership with other people. Charles Schwab said the hardest struggle of all is to be more than the average person. And in this report that's come out, we have a whole lot of average real estate agents. And it's to the demise of the industry, and it bothers me. From The Alchemist, when we strive to become better than we are, everything around us becomes better too. That is so true. Guys, that's what I want you to do. I want you to go spend a couple of weeks by yourself, 15 minutes a day, get you a notebook, sit down by yourself, and write out the business of your dreams. Just you. Maybe it's a cup of coffee in the morning, maybe it's a tea, maybe it's late at night, whatever your best time of the day is. But I want you to get clear on, if time and money weren't the issue, how would you be doing this? And then let's set out to help you do that in concert between myself and your broker. Because that's why we're here. Next, or Wednesday the 26th, the next session. This online conversion deal has become such a huge thing, because we talked about clarity. Let me tell you where the industry is right now. It's running down two rails. One is an online rail, that's Google, Zillow, right, and the ability to convert those leads, and the other is a past client rail. We have talked about the past clients. We really haven't talked about in depth the exact strategies to try to convert these online leads that people are getting. We talked, I think the last session was about the Google reviews. Guys, this is a huge deal. Let me just tell you, this is a text that I received on Monday afternoon from one of my clients who was on their way to a listing appointment. And they said, I had this pulled up, sorry. That I was going out to list an RV park. And he said, I have no idea how these people got my name, but I'm going to find out. And then he sent me this text, FYI, just left my listing appointment. I've got the listing. I think it's overpriced, but I'll look at the comps tomorrow. Asked them how they found me. He said, I Googled 5-star realtors and you came up highly rated. List price $2.2 million. How about that for Google reviews? Guys, this is where the consumer is. So we're going to talk about how you convert those leads to come in. We're going to probably go back down the road again of how you put yourself in the queue to get those. So that's going to be on Wednesday, July the 26th. But Maddie, I've gone way over time, and I apologize to everybody for that. Thank you for hanging in here with me. I'm very passionate about what I talked about today. It's my favorite thing to talk about. But with that, we will open it up for any questions that people might have.
As always, you're welcome to ask your questions in the chat and I can read it on your behalf, or you can raise your hand and we'd be happy to give you permission to ask your question to Wayne yourself. All right, Tammy, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Thanks, Madeline. Hey, Wayne, this was great. I'm sitting here like crying. I met you years ago and you shared some of the same information with me. My son is a golfer and I gave him some advice that you gave me and it worked for him. I think you answered my question. You said, over the next couple of weeks, just take the 15 minutes a day. I'm one of the people that has done different things in my life and I've always been good at them, but like knowing which one of those that I really wanted to do was always the issue. Real estate has been wonderful to me and I love it. But, you know, early on when you said you got to know what you want to do, it just resonated with me. And even now, saying it again, it just really resonates with me. So I've got a notebook right here as I was taking notes, and it's dedicated to those 15 minutes a day.
Yeah, it's
Whew.
yeah, well, I could do 2 hours. I could do 2 hours on golf and life. So I always tell people everything I know in life I learned from either my dad or on the golf course. And I have a love affair with the game, obviously. But yeah, just time and money aren't the issue, and just let it go. Right, write down everything you want to do in your life. It's a really interesting exercise. And then just start refining and crossing out and going, nah, I don't really want to do that one and that one. And it'll appear on the page. I promise you it will appear on the page. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that, because I was afraid to do it. Like, I was afraid of what it might be, and maybe I'm not what everybody wants me to be, or maybe I won't be happy doing it. But thank you for the instruction. It's given me the confidence to just do it.
Tammy, I'm going to tell you this. I will promise you that if you try to be what everybody wants you to be, you will not be happy with it.
True.
You'll be exhausted. You'll be exhausted.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Keep me
Thank
posted.
you so much. Yes, thank you.
Appreciate it. You bet. Bye-bye. Any other questions?
Whew.
All right. Guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.